If you don't have this PMD pattern in your box, it's one you need to tie and have with you at all times. This is the Pure Silk PMD. It's a great emerger cripple pattern that works in stillwater fisheries really well, and tailwater fisheries it specializes in. Here's how you tie it. Little PMD nymphs are very flat bugs. I like to tie these on a very short shanked hook. This is a Daiichi 1640. These are straight eye hooks, keeping the profile flat. Even though they're listed as dry fly hooks, they're very strong and durable, almost like nymph hooks. Get a base of cream UTC thread started on the hook shank. This is 70 denier. Bring your thread all the way back to the bend of the hook. We're going to use every bit of this hook shank for this pattern. Next, I'm going to tie in the shuck of this emerger cripple pattern with some pheasant tail fibers. Pull apart 6 to 8 individual fibers from the stem and trim them close. Bring those to your hook for measurement. Capture them on the back side of the hook shank as far back as you can go with a couple of pinch wraps, and then pull the butt ends until you get the desired length of your tail. I prefer a relatively short tail, about the same length as the hook shank, but you can make it as long as you want. Once you get the right length, bring your thread up the hook shank to capture down those pheasant tail fibers, and then trim the excess about where the body is going to end, about the 3/4 point of the hook. On the way back, we're going to tie in our dead soft copper wire. This is a gold color. Capture that wire on the front side of the hook and bring touching wraps all the way back to your original tie-in point. I like to keep my wire on the front side of the hook shank because I'm going to counter wrap this wire on the way forward. Once you get that wire tied in, we're going to dub a body of silk dubbing. We're going to use yellow for the body. Getting the container full of different colored silk dubbings is a great way to go, because then you have a color for basically any pattern you're going to need. This silk dubbing is amazing for wing material, for body material, thorax material. It just works really, really well, and it moves a lot in the water. Pinch just the tiniest amount of silk dubbing and dub about a 1.5 inch noodle on your thread. You want a nice tapered body. Make touching wraps up to the 3/4 point of the hook shank, maybe a little bit further, and then we can bring forward our wire rib. We're going to counter wrap this using spiral wraps, just doing our best to make even segments as we bring this wire forward towards the thorax. Once you get to the tie down point, make a few wraps of that wire in front of the silk dubbing, and then capture it down with your thread. Make a few wraps over the top and then a few wraps in front just to secure that wire in place. Then you can helicopter that excess and break it off close. We're going to follow the first on last off philosophy for our thorax material. We're going to begin by tying in some pearl tinsel, some flat pearl tinsel. This is a medium, really, really great as a small flashback on this emerger pattern. Trim a small piece from the spool, tie that pearl tinsel down as you bring your thread rearward towards where you ended your pure silk body. Next, we're going to grab more pure silk dubbing. PMDs have a very light colored wing. It's either like a lightish gray color or a white color. I prefer the white for my home waters. Pull a string of pure silk dubbing out of the box until I have a piece that's about 3 inches long. With my scissors, I'm going to trim that fluffy section to make sure it's all squared up on one end. That's going to be my tie-in point. Bring that pure silk dubbing string to the top side of your fly and capture it down and pull the material rearward until you don't have any more sticking out of that squared up end piece that you trimmed. Leave that material hanging off the back side of the fly until the next step. We're going to cover all this up now with a noodle of light yellow Firestar dubbing. Take a very small amount from the pack and dub that delicate noodle onto your thread before making a small ball of Firestar for the thorax portion of your fly. Once you get the right amount of dubbing on your hook, we're going to fold our pure silk wing over the top, leaving a small loop pinched between our fingers on the back side. This is going to be our wing. Capture that down right behind the hook eye with a couple of wraps, and then pull that forward-facing material to close the wing to the desired length. My wings on these are usually a little bit long, but they end up being about the same length as the body, maybe a little bit shorter than the body of the fly. Once you get the desired length of your wing, make securing wraps over the top of that silk dubbing and then in front of it, and then trim your excess dubbing. Now we're going to go in with a bodkin and split this loop wing in half to try and get the materials on either side of the hook shank. You want to make 2 loop wings with this material, and bring your pearl tinsel wing case through the middle and over the top to split those wings in half. Pinch everything together when you capture that pearl tinsel down on the hook shank, and then pull it tight when you secure that material to the hook. Just like you did the pure silk, make a couple wraps over the top of the material, and then make a few wraps in front of the material to make sure it's locked in. Trim your excess tinsel, and then you can add a few half hitches or a whip finish the front side of your fly and trim your excess thread. Add a dab of head cement or UV epoxy on the head of your fly, and then use a dubbing brush to brush out your Firestar thorax to add a little bit of buggy legs to the front side of this fly. I like to trim these legs after I dub them out just to clean them up and make it a little bit neater, but that's not really 100% necessary. And there you have it, a finished pure silk PMD. This is an amazing emerger pattern, acts as a cripple pattern as well. I like to fish it in the surface film if I'm fishing moving water, especially below a dam in a tailwater fishery. I like to drop it behind a rusty spinner or a parachute PMD or something. And I like to fish this deep in reservoir systems behind a split shot when the fish are chasing emerging insects. It works really, really well in that setting. I hope you tie some up, and I hope it helps you catch some fish on your home waters. These are all the materials you'll need to tie a pure silk PMD. Head down to your local fly shop and ask for Larva Lace by name. If they don't have it, make sure they go to hagensfish.com and find the best fly tying materials on the market. We have fast shipping, great customer service, and we offer dealer rates for those fly tying shops and outdoor supply stores that want to get the best rate on their merchandise. Please like and subscribe this video. That's the best way to help other anglers find our tying videos. And subscribe to the Larva Lace YouTube channel to get updates every month when the new tutorial is available. Thanks for tying with Larva Lace. Here's to tight lines and well-tied flies.